Hello there, and welcome to Music Theory Video 1, which is all about note names. Now, music theory for some people is a pretty scary concept because there's a lot of rules and a lot of things to memorize, but really all it is ways to write down and understand what we have already decided by ear sounds good. The first thing we're going to talk about here, which I view as one of the most fundamental steps of reading music, especially for singers, which is what I focus on, is note names. Now, there are obviously a lot of different sounds that things can make. But some of these sounds are the same, which is to say their frequencies line up in a nice way, and so we call those the same letter name. In music, we use 7 letters, so at the beginning of the alphabet, we go to 7, so A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And that's all we use. There is nothing beyond that, so as soon as you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you just start over. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. You can see on a piano keyboard how these line up. For example, this C is the same spot as every other C, where it is to the left of the 2 black keys set. Because we have these 7 letters, one thing that people like to do as a bit of a joke or as just practice is to write words with the 7 letters we have, like cab or cabbage. Unlike words in speaking, however, we have to clarify which C we're playing, and which A and which B for our cab. In order to distinguish which note we want in music, we use a vertical notation on a staff. Now, this took some time for everyone to figure out, and we ended up on 5 lines for our staff. So we number from bottom to top whenever we talk about which line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom to the top, and then the spaces in between it are also numbered the same way. Now, there are obviously more notes than this, so we can also expand these staves using a thing called ledger lines, where we basically just add more lines for whatever note we need, either on top or on the bottom of the staff. But usually we like to keep things within the staff, because that way it's easier for us to read and just to be able to recognize from a glance. In order to be able to orient ourselves for what notes we need, we use this fancy symbol things called clefs. And the main 2 that we use are the treble clef and the bass clef. The main clef we use as singers is the treble clef, which is basically just an old-fashioned capital G. You can see in different composers' handwritings how it looks a little different over time. History of Music book actually shows how it progressed into what we have today, which I find really fascinating. Basically, it's a G. In order to draw this, I like to follow this picture here, where I basically start from the bottom, do a straight line up, loop around to the right, and then to the left, and then finish the spiral. Some people include the loop at the bottom, like if you were using this in a typed version. Some people like to start from the top, and they do the line down and make a J, and then start from the top again to do their spiral around. No matter how you decide to write it, the main focus you want to have is that it looks something like this, and it circles this second line here. Remember, we count from the bottom. This second line is the note G. From this G, you can go through and fill in the rest of the staff with all of the note names you need. So going upwards, we go forwards in the alphabet. Going down, we go backwards. So from G up is A, because we loop, and then you just keep going. B, C, D, E, F, and then going backwards, going down, we would have an F, and then an E. Doing that every single time is a pretty slow process though, so we can memorize where these spots are using mnemonics. So for the spaces, we have F, A, C, and E. You can just remember those as the word face. For the lines, we have E, G, B, D, and F, and you can remember that as the phrase, every good boy does fine. Remember, the notes do keep continuing beyond these, so you can continue filling in your ledger lines as far as you need to go for whatever note you're trying to hit. The second clef that we use in modern music and in choral music is the bass clef. This is an old-fashioned capital F, and it's even older than the G clef. Here is the progression image of how we got to the F clef that we use now. To draw it, what we tend to do is basically just make this weird half-circle heart type thing, and then put 2 dots to the side of it. Again, you can make this as big or as small as you need to. Some people like to do the little circle on the inside as they curve their way out, because that's how it is in written font. But the main focus here is on those 2 dots. In between those 2 dots is the note F. Just like what we did on the treble clef, you can fill in the rest of the staff from this F by going up forwards in the alphabet and down backwards in the alphabet. In order to remember these, the mnemonics we use for spaces are A, C, E, G, all cows eat grass. And for lines, G, B, D, F, A, which is good boys do fine always. Or, if you think that's too similar to the treble clef, good boyfriends don't forget anniversaries. Or, good burritos don't fall apart. Feel free to make your own phrases for these, whatever helps you remember them. That's the main purpose of this. And then of course, do remember we can add ledger lines to this above and below that just continue our letters in their A, B, C, D, E, F, G cycle. Now, these two clefs, the treble and the bass clef, do overlap. And that one line above bass clef and one line below treble clef is our middle C. That is the exact same C note on both of those. It's the same sound, and this is how we combine them into what is called a grand staff. You may see this for piano music, or if you are a vocalist, you would see this under your part where the piano part is. If you have heard of middle C, this is why it has that name. It's not because it's in the middle of the piano, it's because it's in the middle of the two staves. These two phrases here are the exact same notes. They would make the exact same sounds. They're just written in treble clef and bass clef. And you can see how they overlap on that middle C and cover up the two notes. The reason that we would use these ledger lines instead of switching back and forth between treble clef and bass clef is because it's easier to read in one clef the entire time. Or if you're on piano, it shows you which hand is meant to play which notes. So for example, if you're supposed to play something under the treble clef in your right hand, they would still write it as ledger lines below the treble clef rather than as bass clef. Let's do a few examples for practice. So this first note is in treble clef. We have that over on the side. So our phrase for spaces, because it is in between two lines, is face. F-A-C-E, which means that this note is F-A-C. This next note is also in treble clef, and this one has a line going through it, so that means it is on a line. Our phrase for lines is every good boy does fine, so E-G. That's where we are. You could also remember this one because in the treble clef, that circle there circles the G, and you can just go straight across to it. One more note in treble clef. This one is actually outside of the staff. So what we're going to do here is find the closest thing we can to it. In this case, we're going to go for the lines. So every good boy does fine, that's F. The space above F would be a G, so then this line above that is A. This next example is in bass clef. In this case, it is on a space, so our phrase is all cows eat grass. All cows, this is C. One final example also in bass clef, this one is on a line. So good burritos don't fall apart, this is a D. Good burritos don't. And there you have it. This is how you learn note names for music reading. The main thing I would say to get used to them is to remember the mnemonics and practice it. In order to practice, you can look up different things online, you can pull up a chart, or you can just look up sheet music in general. If you find anything written down, you can practice note names with it. I hope this was helpful for you. I will be making some more music theory videos that you can also watch. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to sign up for some lessons. Bye!